Something is brewing beneath the surface, and the world is dangerously unprepared. A new threat is spreading, silent yet relentless, and it's not a question of if, but when. The bird flu pandemic in the United States is no longer just about poultry. However, an avian flu pandemic, the United States, is currently the cause of a rapid spike in egg prices. This deadly virus, H5N1, has made a leap, one that experts feared, but knew was inevitable. It has crossed into cattle, wildlife, and even humans. A 65-year-old American has already lost his life, and another human case was reported in Canada. The virus is no longer contained within farms or aviaries. It has reached foxes, bears, tigers, domestic pets, and even zoo animals. A cheetah and a mountain lion recently succumbed to the virus in Phoenix. The entire US mainland is now a breeding ground for its mutation, and yet the official response, minimal. The CDC states that there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission, but as any epidemiologist knows, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The terrifying reality of H5N1 isn't new. This strain has been lurking in the shadows for over 2 decades. In previous outbreaks, most notably in Egypt and Indonesia, the case fatality rate reached an alarming 50%. That means 1 out of every 2 people infected did not survive. And disturbingly, younger individuals were hit the hardest. But there's a crucial caveat. Most of those outbreaks were relatively small. So while the percentage is staggering, it doesn't necessarily predict how a widespread outbreak would unfold. Nevertheless, the fact remains, this virus is deadly, and now it is getting closer to a global catastrophe. According to Dr. Yoshihiro Kawaoka, a leading virologist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, H5N1 has been accumulating mutations that could increase its transmissibility in mammals. We are in a race against time to understand its full potential. But will we act before it's too late? Last month, the media erupted with claims that H5N1 is 1 mutation away from sparking a human pandemic. This is both accurate and misleading. A recent study confirmed that the virus is just 1 genetic shift away from attaching to human lung receptors. However, that alone is not enough. It would need additional mutations to replicate efficiently and spread between people. The unsettling truth: viruses mutate all the time. The more hosts they infect, the greater the chances of evolution. As Dr. Marion Koopmans, a virologist who advised the World Health Organization during COVID-19, warns, we have seen time and time again how a virus can jump unexpectedly. The complacency around H5N1 is shocking. Governments and pharmaceutical companies are scrambling. The US has poured millions into pandemic preparedness. Last July, the Biden administration allocated $176 million to Moderna for vaccine development. A follow-up investment of $590 million came just before the presidential transition. Europe is also bracing for impact, though it is still recovering from the swine flu. In June, the EU placed advance orders for pre-pandemic vaccines, prioritizing high-risk individuals. The UK followed suit in December with a 5 million dose order. Norway has taken it a step further, securing 2 doses for every citizen. Yet, here's the grim reality: these vaccines won't be ready in time. Experts estimate that mass production and distribution would take at least 6 months once a pandemic begins. 6 months. That's an eternity when facing an airborne, highly lethal pathogen. The consequence: the dreaded return of lockdowns, travel bans, and emergency measures. Have we learned anything from COVID-19? The answer, unfortunately, appears to be no. During the last pandemic, decades of so-called preparedness collapsed in real time. There were no coherent lockdown strategies, no quick diagnostic tools, and no consensus on effective containment. It took months, precious months, to establish localized tracking systems and response plans. Rapid testing, a game changer for controlling outbreaks, was painfully slow to deploy. If H5N1 breaks out tomorrow, we are doomed to repeat these mistakes. We're still acting as if pandemics are rare events, warns Dr. Michael Osterholm, Director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. But in reality, they are inevitable. We need to prepare for them as certainties, not possibilities. The psychological scars of COVID-19 still linger, yet many policymakers seem eager to forget. The emotional toll of prolonged isolation, economic devastation, and the erosion of public trust were vastly underestimated. Worse still, measures like travel bans proved largely ineffective, yet leaders were hesitant to abandon them. The result? A slow, reactive response instead of a proactive one. This cannot happen again. The world is missing its opportunity to act early. Supermarkets should already be stocking rapid tests. Labs should be sequencing this virus at an unprecedented rate. But instead, the world watches and waits. It's not a pandemic yet, but it's working on its resume, one expert grimly noted. And unless we wake up, we will be caught unprepared again. The most chilling aspect of this looming crisis, the numbers don't lie. A recent study published in Nature Communications found that highly pathogenic avian influenza viruses are evolving at an unprecedented rate. The probability of sustained human-to-human transmission is increasing. In just 1 year, H5N1 has spread across multiple continents, infecting species never before recorded. This is a warning sign that cannot be ignored. If an outbreak occurs, the global economy will shudder under the weight of mass hospitalizations and supply chain disruptions. Food shortages will worsen, panic will ensue, and yet, many governments still do not have a clear, executable plan. We are running out of time. The world is at a crossroads. Do we take decisive action now? Or do we wait until hospitals are overwhelmed and chaos sets in? We have a rare chance to act before it's too late. The steps are clear. Ramp up rapid testing, accelerate vaccine development, and enforce strict monitoring of livestock industries. But above all, we must acknowledge the threat and take it seriously. The next pandemic is not a distant theory. It is a ticking clock. And the alarm is about to ring. Will we be ready?